Welcome back to the Marine Corps Movie Minute, where we discuss the movies of the Marine Corps 1 minute at a time. We're currently in the middle of breaking down Heartbreak Ridge, and reached minute 89. I'm Billy,
And I'm Gunny Highberg in the house.
and this went a lot smoother this time, except for my flub. So,
Second time's a charm.
exactly, that's your line.
I heard it.
I was like, I didn't hear it. Well,
That was my best work too. You missed it.
exactly. Yeah, right. It's lost. It's lost for the ages.
Lost in the ether.
I'll just have to trust you on it that it's good.
Oh, it was hilarious. My kids laughed.
Well, good time was had by all, except for me. So Perry is unfortunately not with us again today. So this minute begins with Gunny finishing playing his lifeguard duties by pulling a drowned Major Powers out of the water, and it ends with I guess the introduction of Recon Records.
Mm-hmm. Recon Records.
Yeah. Well, welcome back, Doug. Thanks for coming back.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is fun. I like talking about a movie that I just saw for the first time. It's it's I've known people that will guest on these things, like just watching the 3 minutes or 5 minutes that they were given, and I'm not that crazy. I'll at least give the movie a look before I before I just jump into 3 minutes. But no, I do like doing like a fresh take, on a movie I never saw before. But thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. I really appreciate you joining. I recently, the episodes haven't aired yet, but I recently was on 2 Minutes About Time,
Hmm.
and I had never seen that movie before. So they told me I didn't have to watch the movie and I could just do the minutes. And I found it on Netflix, so I'm like, I better watch it real quick before it's gone.
Yeah.
And I watched it. And I was like, it's not a movie I expected to like. And if I was not a guest on a show, I never would have watched it in a
Hmm.
million years. It's not my, it looked like a rom com. It was a bit more than that, and I ended up really liking it. And I called my dad. I'm like, Dad, because there's a lot of father son stuff in it. And I'm like, hey, Dad, did you see this movie and blah blah blah? He's like, Yeah, I've seen it. I liked it too. they, it's '70s watching British rom coms, so.
Oh man.
He told me the other day, I like time travel movies, he goes.
I can't imagine he's their target audience.
No, not at all. But I like to joke that this movie, my dad is the target audience. We're going for the dad demographic here,
Oh
like
yeah, absolutely.
this is definitely I mean, I grew up with this movie, but I would even say that this movie is just slightly above, like it's like I'm just one what am I trying to say? Like I'm one generation removed of the target audience maybe, but I
Right.
I liked it anyway, so.
Yeah, you think this is more geared towards the Clint Eastwoods or the Stitch Joneses of the world?
I would have to say the Clint Eastwoods.
Yeah.
I think finding out just some of the stuff and research about this movie, that the way Mario Van Peebles he was a young actor at the time, but he was older than a lot of the other actors. He was maybe 26 or 28, and the other guys were maybe four.
Hmm.
And of course, his father was in the industry, so he brought a lot to the table as far as ideas for shoots, ideas for other guys. He wrote a lot of the songs. Maybe we'll get into it next minute.
Yeah, yeah.
He wrote the songs that Stitch Jones sings.
Mhm.
He didn't know how to play the guitar. He lied about that and just took a couple lessons. I think it shows, but but who am I to criticize? I
He
can't play
lied on
it
his
either.
resume? What?
Yeah, I know, it's shocking. Well, he could have fooled me though. But
Yeah, yeah.
there's something I forgot to bring up last minute about lifeguarding. Actually, I've made two references to that. Clint Eastwood was a real life lifeguard, and I found an article from 2011. I'm going to post it in the quarter deck because I found it fascinating. It has some pretty good pictures, and it was about Clint Eastwood in the 50s, 1953. In June, he went to this Red Cross aquatic school, and he was one of the trainers there. He had been a lifeguard, like I guess in the 40s, and then he was drafted into Korea, but he never actually went overseas to fight. He actually was a swim instructor or something during that time. So when he got out in '53, he went and was this lifeguard trainer at this place in Beaver Lake, Samish Plateau,
What?
somewhere. Yeah, it's like in Oregon or
Somewhere.
Seattle or somewhere. Yeah.
All right.
If I took 2 seconds to actually skim the article a little more, little more better as I was. Um, reading's hard.
Yeah.
If crayons aren't involved, I don't do it.
Reading's hard, talking's even harder.
Yeah, tell me about it. And don't ask me your name because I won't remember it. But I found this. I found it pretty cool that Clint Eastwood. Right, this was literally only a year or two right before he kind of moved to L.A. and became the Clint Eastwood we know and love. He was a
Hmm,
lifeguard and he was a lifeguard instructor. And they got this one cool shot, and it kind of relates to the military a little bit. It says Clint Eastwood demonstrating a makeshift water wings, Beaver Lake, King County, June 27th, 1953. And it shows him in the water, and he's got a pair of pants, and you tie it off, and that's
hmm,
something that we have to do in boot camp. And then you swim qual every year, every 2 years in the Marine Corps. I think it's every 2 years once you're out of basic in the fleet. And that's
mhm.
one of the things you have to do is you have to take your pants off and you have to use your like bootstraps or whatever at the end to tie at the ankles, and use your belt to tie. You get as much air as you can, and then use your belt or whatever to tie off.
Yeah, to make a flotation
Yeah,
device, right?
and there you go, because Marines are meant to be on ship, and sometimes you have to abandon ship,
Yeah,
and you may not have a life jacket. So that was something we had to do, and I just thought it was neat that there's the Clint Eastwood demonstrating how to do that. So I'll post that in the quarter deck if anybody's curious about that. But
yeah, pretty cool.
yeah, I think it's neat. I like finding these old photos or still photos of actors or anybody, especially if it has to do with the military.
Yeah.
I one time did a presentation at one of the local Comic Cons on the Marine Corps birthday about veterans, comic book creators who were veterans, and
Mhm.
because a lot of the guys that they went off to Stan Lee, he was in the
Yeah.
army. The guy that created Superman, he was in the army, and I found these old photos of a lot of these guys as in their military service, and I just thought it was fascinating. That was my favorite part about it. I actually, instead of putting them on PowerPoint, I actually had pictures and brought in and showed everybody. So
That's awesome.
yeah, it's kind of neat, and to see Clint Eastwood before he was Clint Eastwood.
I was yeah, it's like hard to imagine these people that have lives before, we know them as actors.
Yeah, it's almost like they're real people.
Yeah, almost.
Now we tease Pete Koch a little bit about this. We see him just really celebrating Gunny's win.
Oh my god. These watching the guys in the background is my favorite part of shots like this.
Yeah.
Is because like their direction is probably just like, okay, now you guys just get excited however you want to, just get excited.
Yeah, because like Mario Van Peebles he's jumping up and down like it's pretty funny. But there's a guy standing next to Swede, and he's right in front of Gunny, and he's almost as tall as Pete Koch. He's just not as
Uh,
muscular, and I
yeah.
think he's the one that suplexed him when he was in the water earlier. Pete told us a
Oh.
little bit about it. He was a corpsman, and they were like, "We can't make it a cakewalk for Swede, so hey, you're big. Why don't you get in there and see if you can lift him?" And so I think that's him because he's sizable himself. He doesn't have quite the muscle structure as one Pete Koch there.
Yeah. I think few people do.
No, I know. I would say he's a mountain of a man. But and what's funny though too is I mean I'm not gonna tell Pete Koch stories. They can listen to the episode he was on. But he mentioned one time just how he went to audition for some role. And he's like the smallest guy there, or like he's the average guy there. Like there's so many other
Jeez.
big guys. It's like I can't even imagine that.
Yeah. Like, what kind of room is that?
Right. Now, I don't know if you notice it's like minute, or I always say minute, but I mean second. When Lieutenant Ring is up on the hill celebrating, I think
Yeah.
Peyton Manning is watching him.
Oh my god. It does look like him. Oh, he's got that Manning nose.
Yeah, there's all sorts of cameos in this movie. I had no idea.
That's funny. He's definitely got the Manning look. Ring celebrating was another one of my notes. He's just jumping around like a goofball.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And the thing is, I like Lieutenant Ring because I kind of like he's such a dork in the beginning,
Yeah.
but he means well. That's what I like about him. Like he's a dork, but he's not. He learns.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is his willingness to adapt and, make something. He rises to the occasion.
Yeah, for sure. And he actually has balls when it's all said and done. A couple times, he's a boot, and we've joked because we weren't sure if he was a first lieutenant or second lieutenant because it's hard to tell. and there's
Hmm.
no literature, or either like on IMDb, or we've never got a script or anything that's referenced it.
Hmm.
So luckily, Pete Koch said he's pretty sure he was supposed to be. This is his first duty assignment. So we're like, okay, he's a second lieutenant. He's boot as hell. That's how they play him. But he stands up to Major Powers by taking ownership for when Gunny freelanced the men. He gave him permission.
Oh, right.
Major Powers thought that was his chance to run Highway out of there, but Lieutenant Ring stepped up, but he gives the order later when they're in combat to keep hard charging.
Right.
Yeah, so he's a good. I like his character, and yes, he is a total goof up there.
I I like his character too. I mean, he's green as hell, but it's no fault of his. You know what I mean? So
And
it's
that's true to life though too. It's like you're in charge, but you don't know anything more than half the guys you're in charge of.
right, right.
Or you should listen to somebody like Gunny.
Hmm.
He may not have the authority per se to do some of the things, but he's got the experience and hopefully the know-how, and you help mentor these guys. And if they're smart, they learn from them.
But that's how an officer or like a supervisor or anybody of rank should be. Like you shouldn't just think you know everything more. You know so much more than the guys below you. Like you have as much to learn from them as they have to learn from you.
Exactly, exactly. So that's what I like about him. It's fairly true to life.
Yeah, totally.
We don't get a lot of the pit fight. It's really just the end of it. It's just them celebrating. And I do like that Chuzu comes over right away, super happy,
Hmm.
raises Clint Eastwood's hand, and there's just big smiles all around. In my opinion, I've already mentioned this before, and well, maybe I didn't because I don't know how time travel works, but I've recorded something before that I might put in here.
Aha.
So now we're going to save, and then they're going to hear it again if I insert the audio. Because I don't know how this stuff works. But it looks like a genuine moment on screen. Like this isn't Tom Highway celebrating. This is Clint Eastwood celebrating with his cast. Well, I guess it's his cast, not his crew. But there seems to be a lot of genuine smiles and like pats on the back and mission accomplished, job well done thing. And we asked Pete Koch about it, and he did say that our instincts were fairly correct on that. It was a
Mm.
long physical shoot in the hot sun, and everybody was on board, and everybody really was on board. As Gunny's like the quarterback, or Clint Eastwood, he's the boss. But
Mhm.
everybody liked him, and they were on board for what the vision that he had. And it just seemed like it was, to me, it seemed like a genuine, wow, we did it. Let's wrap it up. And I mean, yes, it was in character, lifting the arm and all that, but it
Mhm.
just that's how it came across to me. So
It would be great if that was like the last scene that was shot of the entire movie, and that was like their celebratory
right,
send off. That would be cool, but
yeah.
who the hell knows?
It would make sense too, but I think it was fairly early in the shoot. It was like maybe the second or third. I think it was like the third week. I think Pete told us.
Oh.
Let's throw it to Pete, and he can confirm or not. I think it's minute 89. There's a pretty funny scene with you, Pete, where it's when Gunny's basically winning. He's dragging Major Powers out, and you're just cheering him on, and you're like punching the air, and you're throwing your hands up in the air. And I just thought that was a real funny, like yeah, just really getting into it.
Well, I was just trying to bring some energy to it. That's a scene. Boy, at that point in the day, we had a lot of tired actors, me included, and it was, you know, I, it was just I was just trying to give it everything I had, and there was a lot of the kind of shaky camera, handheld camera stuff going on there, and just trying to figure out my position in relationship to where the camera is. Like that expression, if you can't see the camera, it can't see you, but you can't look at the camera, so you got to feel it, as we say. And that's up to the actor to do that, because you could be doing some great stuff, and if you're just not clued into your position versus the camera can't see you, and that's unusable footage. That's a big waste of everybody's energy. We're all trying to contribute to make it something good. So the camera's got to see you. So that's what I was trying to do.
Yeah, well, it's front and center, right? Right there on the screen, and it's a good little. I always call it little bits of business too. I like it. It's everybody's got their own little personality and character in the background, even though it's not really. it's more about Clint Eastwood winning the fight, and yet everybody's celebrating in their own way. Just make a comment you mentioned about Clint Eastwood putting in a hard day's work and not really having a lot to do until he gets in the pit with Major Powers, which is obviously jumping ahead a little bit. But I noticed there's just one shot at the end when he beats Major Powers and drags him out, and Chuzu holds his arms up and everybody's cheering. To me, it looked like an authentic moment for Clint Eastwood, not as Tom Highway, but as Clint Eastwood. It looked like it was kind of like, hey, this was cool. We got the job done. We got the shot. I mean, this is something I could be reading into it, but it just seemed like after a long day of a physical shoot where like I said, it did look like it's fun. It seemed like everybody was kind of cheering him on, Clint Eastwood. Like it seemed like a genuine moment that was captured on film.
No, your instincts are exactly right. And by that point, had been filming together as a group for at least 2 or 3 weeks, and everybody was really 100% excited about making this film. And personally, to a man, I think I could speak to these actors I worked with, that to a man, everybody was just truly enjoying the experience of working with Clint. It was very easy to conjure up that emotion of happiness and sort of gratitude and relief, that he won the fight. And and the yeah, it just like anything else in this world, when you've got a boss that you like, it makes life a much nicer.
Oh,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It had to be cool too. I mean, you were there for filming a Clint Eastwood fight scene. Like, how legendary is that?
I know, so crazy. And it's clever, right? And you think about it now, that there's a bunch of fights in it. Clint's got his moments to shine. It's great. It's perfect.
You got some editing to do, my friend.
Oh yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Oh, you should have seen me the other night trying to do that. I was like, terrible.
And with no buffer, folks.
Yeah. Yeah. Fuck it, we're doing it live. Yeah, that's how we do. We improvise, we adapt, we overcome. So
Yeah, that's right. That's the whole mindset of this movie.
Right. How better? Some people think we're cheating, but I say we improvise. We cut over really quick over to now the head basically. We got the Marines cleaning up and getting ready for their 72 that they just won. So Profile, he's sitting there, calamine lotion in hand, saying he thinks he's got bit by every bug known to man. Somebody said he's going to get permanent light duty with all the crud that he's got in him. At that point, Stitch Jones, which I'm not really understanding what he was doing in the shower with his GMC hat on and his guitar in hand.
Yeah.
Because that's definitely the shower he's covered from.
and towel around his waist. So,
yeah, exactly.
I mean, he's either about to get in or just came out.
I don't know, but he's plucking that guitar strings.
It sure is.
I don't know. But he tells Profile that basically this is like a dream come true for him, that he doesn't have to put up with this shit anymore. I like that. He says, well, fuck you. I'm getting pretty good at this stuff.
Did you guys get into the actor that played Profile?
A little bit, yes. Tom Villard is his name, and he actually lived one town over from where I went to high school.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty neat, which Perry likes to use as, well, of course, you're like the Profile. He's a big goof and an idiot. So.
Does he really talk like that? The only other thing I've seen him in is One Crazy Summer, where he's like over the top weird.
Oh, that's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
He's great in that. He's like that in most movies, but I don't think he's as like slow as he comes across. I think he's, as we joke, he's playing a Tom Villard character.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I know I've seen him in interviews, because he passed away in like the 90s.
94, I think.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And I remember seeing him on movies, and he did like a horror movie that I've never seen. So I can't imagine he's as goofy in that as he is in every other movie. About the whole Profile thing, though, I like when he he basically told Stitch Jones, stood up for himself and told him to piss off because he's doing good. But I like too that they kind of all react when he tells Stitch Jones to fuck off, that he's like, oh, why, they this crazy, because Profile isn't like that,
Yeah.
Because even early on, he didn't. I joked that when he first met Gunny, he said, Recon doesn't kick ass, Recon kicks butt. you know.
Real tough guys.
Yeah, exactly.
So this all this was on location stuff, right? Like this was the real barracks and the real, I guess, latrine or head. What do you guys call this?
Well, we would call it the head. It's the head. I think the army would call it a. So yeah, these were Quonset huts on in Camp Pendleton, and I think the recon units that were they. I actually had the units written down somewhere. I forget offhand, but the Marines who were in that unit make up some of the Marines in like. There's this guy that walks by Stitch Jones going into the shower as Stitch Jones comes out.
Right.
100% believe that guy was a real Marine. He actually
I
looks
got
like a guy I served with.
Oh,
Same
wow.
mustache, same everything. We joke that we're like, that's our buddy. Yeah, so it's like you get these 6 or 7 actors that we always get, like they're all hanging out here in on screen. But there's a lot of guys that I recognize throughout this film that are just background guys. And I've been able to identify a couple of them thanks to IMDb. Like, oh, this guy
Mhm.
was actually a first lieutenant as part of whatever infantry unit it was.
And do any of them have any lines, or is it really just background guys?
Most of them are just background guys, but there's like one scene where there's a guy who comes up and he says, "Platoon's ready, Gunny." And I'm like,
Mhm.
that guy has gotta be. He never
Uh-huh.
shows up again. He's got that look. Like you could tell he was like the platoon sergeant or something in real life, and you're like, this. He's just got that look.
Too squared away.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way. I'm like, although there's actually, I think it's in this minute too. When they're celebrating, you see Stitch Jones jumping up, and right at the beginning, the first 5
Mhm.
seconds, Stitch Jones is jumping up and down. There's a guy in the background right behind him.
Yeah, yeah.
He's the guy that Stitch Jones grabbed his balls when he fell forward and won the match. Well, supposedly won the match, but then
Oh.
maybe he cheated. He was also the same guy in the bar early on when he said,
Those guys were definitely
"Yeah."
uh real Marines.
I meant to confirm this. I had read that guy was a Marine and that they gave him a line. I've also
Yeah.
thought I heard somewhere that he was Stitch Jones' stand-in, which I could kind of believe because they have a similar build. But he's just too squared away, and all the other guys that were with him were Marines.
They were doing the Marine
Yeah, woo,
bark,
woo.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. The oorah, the yeah, yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were doing that. I don't do it, so I don't do it.
You're a Marine, for Christ's sake.
Ah, yeah, but I mean, I only did it in boot camp where I really meant it.
So profile says like Gunny Highway is the sickest individual it's been my sorry pleasure to ever come across. Did I get that line right?
That is exactly what he said. Yes.
It's been my sorry pleasure to ever I don't know, just the syntax of that sentence kind of throws me a little bit.
Yeah, well, I was wondering that, like, was that like a mess up? Like he just flubbed it a little bit, and they're like, "Yeah, let's keep it," or did they really mean it like he's sick, and I'm sorry that I met him because he's putting us through a lot of shit, but I'm happy I met him.
It's a sorry pleasure. So it's like those two.
I don't know. Like
Is it
I'm
sorry
glad
or
I met.
pleasure?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of well, maybe it's like when you really do something physically demanding, but then it's like rewarding afterwards. I guess.
Hmm.
I don't know because I never do that, but
Or is that just or is that just them saying like, look, profiles just, so brain dead that these are the words that come out of his mouth.
I feel like he's the only one that could have pulled that line off that way. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
But that made them talk about Gunny Highway, one sick individual.
A bionic Marine.
Yeah, Recon Records and songs like. But then actually, that's the end of the minute right there. So we'll have to forward to the next minute to find out what kind of songs are going to make it on Recon Records.
Yeah.
So what do you say we do that? What do you say we just wrap up this minute and find out what's going on Friday?
I'm ready.
Okay,
Let's go
great.
to it.
Well, why don't you tell the people where they can find you?
Yeah, again, I'm one of the hosts of Rocky Minute. You can find us, as I said before, just Google the Sylvester Stallone Fan Podcast Network. You'll find the Rocky Minute. You'll find Going the Distance, the Rocky Series podcast, and the Slycast. All three of us are on the same feed. Rocky Minute is usually a daily, 5-day a week podcast, but we might cut it down to 3 because you guys got to figure it out. that 5 days a week, man, is killer.
Yeah.
Killer.
Yeah, I couldn't commit.
You're smart. You're smart.
I'm barely above water on 3, so
We have one of those listeners groups on Facebook. We're called Mighty Mix, so you can find us over there. Otherwise, your Rocky Minute on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and I think that's it.
All right, excellent. Well, I'm going to ask everybody to come back on Friday and wrap up the minute with Doug, or the week, I should say. And while we were waiting, I texted Perry because Perry's not feeling well, so unfortunately, he wasn't able to record. And I told him, look, with you not feeling well, you're going to be able to get out of doing this whole podcasting thing. And he said, fuck you, I'm getting pretty good at it. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Marine Corps Movie Minute, where we discuss the movies in the Marine Corps 1 minute at a time. Currently in the midst of doing Heartbreak Ridge, and we've reached minute 89. I'm Billy. That's your cue. Uh-oh. Did I lose you? Oh, shit.